Good Yentiv. Tonight I want to speak with you about hope. How giving hope and internalizing hope are the most important tasks in this new year. Before I get to hope, though, we need to walk first through the valley of shadows. I met Sam Gowell 19 years ago when he and his big sister Sophia started preschool. They were cute kids and very sweet. In their home, they referred to religious school as God's school. I always liked that. Even then, Sam and Sophia were smart. Even then, Sam and Sophia gave deeply of themselves to others. Sophia and Sam finished religious school here at Shaarey Zedek, became bar and bat mitzvah on our bima, and madruchim in our religious school, in our God school. Through their learning here and then at the Frankel Jewish Academy and USY, they became quite Jewishly knowledgeable and embraced by our community. They collected friends wherever they went, and along with their parents, they worked tirelessly for people in need. Both Sam and Sophia know that their families, their friends, and their people all love them. Sam exhibited no obvious signs of mental illness during his 2 decades of life, nor had he really asked for help in that way. It was then a heartbreaking tragedy and terrible surprise when 2 weeks ago, Sam Gowell took his own life. He was 21 years old, a kid from our community, from our congregation, from our family. While we say that Sam took his own life, the truth is that mental illness killed Sam in the same way that cancer or heart attacks kill. Sam's brain malfunctioned, it misfired. It seems to me, though, that it wasn't mental illness alone that killed Sam. Millions of people live with mental illness and it doesn't take their lives. But hopelessness is a comorbidity for those with mental illness. And hopelessness mixed with mental illness can kill. I fear that there is a culture of doom overtaking our society, perpetuated by television pundits, culture warriors, and politicians exploiting our fears. This culture of doom, combined with an undisclosed mental illness, is what took away my friend Sam, and far too many others as well. There exists a heaviness in the world around us. As Jews, as Americans, as humans, we are confronting a litany of challenges and obstacles, a laundry list of evildoers and hate mongers. Though the data tells us that people around the world are more literate, more vaccinated, healthier, safer, and less impoverished than ever in history, it nevertheless feels in many ways like we are nearing a tipping point toward disaster. When social media and our overconsumption of the 24/7 news cycle amplify stories of suffering and warnings about worst-case scenarios to the exclusion of good, the hopelessness becomes contagious. Hopelessness is spreading, and left unchecked, hopelessness threatens to overtake our world. But as Jews, we are uniquely qualified to battle hopelessness, because at the center of everything our faith and our people stand for is hope. Judaism demands that we give hope to the hopeless and that we internalize hopefulness ourselves, because our Judaism reminds us that just as free will leads to evil, so too can free will lead to blessing. So this Yom Kippur, in Sam's memory, I'm asking you to join me in choosing hope and in becoming a source of hopefulness. The 21st century is hardly the first with great challenges, and human history might suggest is warranted a certain degree of pessimism. Indeed, the Torah tells us that evil has been with us since day one, well, day 6, actually, when God created humans. Adam and Eve abused their free will by eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the one thing God asked them not to do. Then 1 generation later, Cain killed Abel and had the chutzpah to ask of God, "Nu, am I my brother's keeper?" Because of human free will, violence and jealousy, lies and selfishness enter the world. Then we read of Abraham. The Jewish people and our Torah are God's weapons in combating evil, and the embodiment of the obligation to serve as our brothers and sisters' keeper. We Jews have not always lived up to our mission. Rashi teaches that our ancestors' descent into exile began with our own sinat chinam, with our own senseless hatred of siblings against siblings. In fact, more than half the book of Genesis is consumed with Joseph. Stories of jealousy, violence, brothers turning on brothers, and everyone forced out of the promised land. The Israelite slavery in Egypt began when family members exhibited cruelty toward each other. Allow me to fast forward through redemption. God brought us up out of Egypt and returned us to the promised land. We came to govern ourselves and we built a holy temple. We thrived in the land of Israel for centuries until we strayed from the path, worshiping idols. And like the children of Jacob, we failed in the commandment to love our neighbors as ourselves. So it was some 2,500 years ago, the Bible tells us, that the mighty Babylonians took advantage of our infighting, our intolerance, and our immorality, and moved against Jerusalem. They breached the walls of the city, they took prisoner the Jewish king, and they destroyed the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. With our king deposed, the Babylonians appointed a Jewish governor named Gedaliah to lead the defeated remnant of Israel. A plot was hatched, and during a state dinner, fellow Jews assassinated Gedaliah. Not coincidentally, the Bible tells us that after killing the Jewish governor, the Jewish assassin and his followers fled to Egypt for safety. The dark side of human free will, jealousy and violence, power and conflict, brought Jewish self-governance in the land of Israel to an end. Like in the days of Joseph, the Jews had turned against each other. Like in the days of Joseph in the beginning of the Bible, we Jews once again found ourselves in Egypt at the end of the Bible. Truly, the biblical narrative of from Egypt and back to Egypt offers us a pessimistic view of the human condition, rooted in a stark reality. Even in our own times, it feels like despite the great strides of progress and modernity, we continue to live today with the same immorality, infighting, and intolerance that return us time and again to Egypt. Those who fail to learn history are doomed to repeat it. That said, few of us would probably define ourselves as hopeless, but the language we use around each other, and especially around our children and grandchildren, certainly evokes a palpable despair, as if our entire way of life is terminal. Power-hungry politicians play off our fears and stoke our anger. The cable news pundits we watch and the op-ed writers we read pollute our hearts and minds with their vitriol. For some reason, we tolerate this poisoning of our national dialogue, and we repeat their oversimplified sound bites in conversation and on social media. Certainly, our world has significant and serious problems, and we Jews are obligated to address them. However, when we use language or accept language that is hyper-inflammatory, polarizing, and doomsday, then we contribute to hopelessness. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, Proverbs tells us, and we will spend these next 24 hours repenting for our sins of our words, most of all. Yet even with the biblical warning about human abuses of free will, the Bible is ultimately a purveyor of hope for the Jewish people and for humanity. Our most central text tells us that when we cease our indifference to human suffering, that when we act with simple kindness toward another person, we can, with God's help, bring our own salvation. Our rabbis reveal that our ancestors lingered in slavery in Egypt until God saw something change. One person finished making his own quota of bricks and then turned to help a weaker neighbor. Others followed suit. The seeds of redemption were planted when one person performed a small act of kindness for another. God then launched our redemption when Moses saw an Egyptian abusing an Israelite, and Moses rose in the Israelites' defense. As the Talmud teaches, when you save one life, it is as if you save the world. The combination of our ancestors acting kindly toward each other with Moses' act of justice and protection caused the garden of redemption to spring forth. Exile commences from sibling strife, but redemption begins when siblings stand together. Exile is rooted in human indifference to the suffering of others, but redemption commences when humans take even small steps toward healing the wounds of another person. There is hope when we care for each other in kindness. Not just the Bible, but the central message of Yom Kippur too is that we can turn from our selfishness and from our cynicism to give hope to the hopeless and to accept hopefulness ourselves. Yom Kippur teaches us that the foundation of hope is the human ability to recognize our mistakes and shortcomings and to change. Like Moses, who came down from the palace to save the life of a fellow Jew, and like our ancestors who as slaves began helping each other, Kol Nidrei night calls us to action. This Kol Nidrei night, we plant the seeds for our redemption. This night, we must begin to reject the culture of doom and to embrace the reality that when you can save even one life, you save the world. By all accounts, Eugene and Alla Sirotnikov had it good. A cardiologist and social worker, respectively, they were 34 years old when the Soviet Union collapsed. The future was bright. Their family was growing. Their kids were educated and successful. Now, 30 years after the collapse of the USSR, and age 65, Eugene and Alla had just retired and were enjoying the next chapter of their lives in Ukraine. We know where this story goes. 8 months ago, Russia invaded. The 3 generations of the Sirotnikovs lived in Kharkiv, a city in the eastern part of Ukraine, not far from the Russian border. The family's homes, cars, and entire way of life were bombed, destroyed, pummeled. Their lifetime of savings disappeared. All their material possessions now fit inside 2 suitcases. Eugene and Alla, like so many other Ukrainians, are truly suffering. Unlike other Ukrainians, however, Eugene and Alla are not without hope, and they were willing to ask for help. Eugene reached out to his cousin, Greg Zlatopolsky, who, along with Greg's wife Alla and their children, live here in Metro Detroit. Greg, himself of Ukrainian birth, and Alla have been members of Shaarey Zedek for more than a quarter century. As soon as the war began, Greg and Alla began supporting Eugene and his wife Alla, along with Eugene and Alla's children and grandchildren. Greg reached out to me to help as well. Knowing how generous our Shaarey Zedek family is, I assured him that we could help. That because the Talmud says every Jew is responsible for every other Jew, we are obligated to help. I called the Jewish Federation and Jewish Family Service, only to learn that very little money was left from the Ukraine campaign to support resettlement efforts here. So my next call was to Congregational Past President Greg Orley. Without hesitating, Greg and Harriet pledged deeply from their own resources and volunteered to reach out to a few friends. Thanks to Harriet and Greg Orley's leadership, thanks to Greg and Alla Zlatopolsky's hard work and compassion, and thanks to the kindness of many, I'm pleased to tell you that we are on track to provide a year's worth of living expenses to Eugene and Alla, to their son Roman and his wife Lena, to Eugene and Alla's daughter Yana and her husband Igor, and Eugene and Alla's grandchildren, Daniel, Katya, and Lev. In addition, the Frankel Jewish Academy and Hillel Day School both understood the mitzvah of educating Eugene and Alla's grandchildren, referencing our day school's willingness to help provide for Jews in need and thus to gift hope where there was no hope. Hillel's head of school, Dr. Darren Katz, told me when I called him to ask for Hillel's help, this is what we Jews do. This is what Alla and Greg Zlatopolsky did for their cousins. This is what Harriet and Greg Orley and those who joined them did. I'd like to invite you, too, to participate in what we're calling the Nightingale Project. You can donate after Yom Kippur to the Nightingale Project through the Shaarey Zedek website by dropping off gift cards for food or gasoline, or by volunteering to help the family. I'd like to take a moment now and invite Alla and Greg Zlatopolsky to rise. I took a gamble because I didn't see them come in. They're watching at home then. Best laid plans of mice and men. To Eugene and Alla Sirotnikov, we say, welcome to Congregation Shaarey Zedek. To your whole family, we say, welcome home. We're so happy that you're here. Because of the kindness of Congregation Shaarey Zedek in particular and our Detroit Jewish community in general, we are saving Jewish lives, and we are also giving Jewish souls a chance to thrive. Participating in the Nightingale efforts is one step you can take to care for another human being, to give someone hope. There are countless other organizations through which we can fulfill the mitzvah of caring for those in need, including Yad Ezra, for whom we are collecting food that you can bring to the synagogue in a bag tomorrow. After Yom Kippur, you can donate to any of the wonderful Jewish or even non-Jewish organizations that care deeply for those in need, including as well organizations that seek to care for those confronting mental health issues. You can also choose to participate in the life of your Shaarey Zedek family. After all, giving and receiving hope is the foremost business in which Congregation Shaarey Zedek is engaged, because hope leads to healing, joy, faith, learning, laughing, family, friendship, community, and leadership, for which Shaarey Zedek is known. Ours, my friend, is a Torah well lived. Ours is the Torah of hope and of action. I'm proud of us, and I thank you for being part of our sacred efforts. I wish that my friend Sam Gowell and people suffering from hopelessness like Sam could ask for and receive the help they need. I wish that they could really behold the profound goodness in the world that I see every day. I wish they could see our members who give so fully of themselves to the poor, the hungry, the suffering. I wish Sam could count the hundreds upon hundreds of people comforting each other and comforting Sam's family because of the tremendous amount of love that exists in this world. There is so much love and goodness and kindness in this world. I am deeply, deeply hopeful about the future of humanity and the Jews, because I see how much hope we can provide through our actions. And not just I, but also Sam's family, even in the midst of all this. Also, Sam's family wants the world to know of their hope for the future, because they too see the good works being done. We must speak of our hope, and we must continue to provide hope. We must spread word about all the reasons to hope, and we must bring that hope to reality. We must, for the sake of our children, our community, our people, we must. Judaism in general and Yom Kippur in particular remind us that just as free will leads to evil, so too can free will lead to blessing. So this Kol Nidrei night, in memory of Sam Gowell and all who, like Sam, lost their hope, I'm asking you to join me in rejecting language of despair and derision. This Kol Nidrei night, I'm pleading with you to choose hope and to perpetuate hopefulness with our words for sure, but also by performing small acts of kindness for those who are in need. And tonight, I'm reminding you that if you need help, please ask for help. If you need help, please ask for help. Gemar Chatima Tova. May we be sealed in the book of life and for hope. And let us say together, Amen.